All right, Jules, let's get a little more granular here. We'll get to Inter's, some of their issues in a second, but I wanted to touch upon, I want to continue with Leao first, because obviously he was at Lille, he was part of the Lille conveyor belt. He got a lot of hype. I have to say, like, I remember going to watch a game at Paris Saint-Germain against Lille a couple of years ago when he was still there. And it was, all the hype was about Pepe, not Leao. And, you know, I was like, I don't see it. Of course, I was entirely wrong. Did he get that much hype when he was there?
Luis Campos always said when he brought him in from Sporting that he's the Portuguese Mbappe. This is the similar players.
Way not to put pressure on somebody.
I know. Like, hey, you know.
Well, you compared him to George Weah, so, you know.
Yeah, true. But now it's a bit, I think now the comparison, whoever he wants to compare him with or who he reminds you of, for me, George Weah, but for you, it could be someone else, is different than when he was 18 or 17 when he arrived, you know. And obviously they got him on a free, which is still not really resolved. All that issue about should Lille have paid Sporting, etc. But it was pretty clear that he had, in terms of athleticism and the technical ability, all of that, everything to clearly be a very good player. The rest was like, okay, how strong mentally is it to make the step up with the discipline on the pitch, off the pitch, and, you know, work hard and everything, because we've seen also those talents before, just relying a little bit on the talent and not enough maybe on the hard work kind of thing. And the move to Milan, I remember a few people saying, is this move a bit dodgy because Milan paying 30 million for him after one season in France where he hasn't really, like you said, like you saw, we all saw it where, okay, we see the talent, but it doesn't really materialize in anything yet. And I just think Pioli deserves so much credit and his team for taking Leao, which was really like an unpolished diamond, to Milan and say, okay, this is how we're going to work. This is what we're going to make you do. And I think this is where you see the quality of a manager. We can say everything about, okay, win trophies and be successful of that. But maybe the best quality of a manager is to make take a player like Leao and take it to the next level, making him improve. And I think Pioli has done that so well. I mean, the player he is now compared to where he was in France is unrecognizable almost.
So he's entering the last 2 years of his contract, so you're going to have to renew his deal. And this is probably part of the reason why he was linked to Chelsea, if you remember, late in the window. Some enormous amount of money. I don't know how real it was. Again, I would hope that if Chelsea work out that they need Leao, they would start getting the ball rolling sooner. You know, this isn't Aubameyang, who's been on sale all summer, who they ended up with, where you could just knock on the door on the last day. Here, you want Leao, you need to get the ball rolling sooner. But, you know, they were talking 100 million, north of 100 million there. The thing with him is, if he gets a new deal, it's going to push at the top of what Milan's salary limits have been.
That's the thing.
What do you do now? Thus far, right? So there is a sense that Milan might be willing to do business next summer if they can't extend that deal.
But would they want to extend his deal?
Well, it's interesting because, of course, Milan have new owners now. Obviously, Redbird's taken over. Jerry Cardinale. He was at his first game. He was so happy. For me, this is different. This is different, too, from the Gigio Donnarumma deal. Obviously, because the reason I bring this up with Milan is Milan have obviously, they've done this before, right? Frank Kessie, Gigio Donnarumma, the two, and Çalhanoğlu. 3 cases where Milan said, no, we think you're worth this. If you don't like it, you know, hit the road, right? I think if they went back, would they change their minds over those 3 things? I would argue they've certainly on Donnarumma, I think the answer would be no, because if they had kept Donnarumma at those figures, obviously not Mino, but Mino's people, you know, his agents would then be talking about, time to extend again. And they got Mike Maignan, who's phenomenal. I mean, I'm not going to say he's better than Donnarumma, but some people certainly would say that. Or you know, they're comparable. Kessie, we'll see how it turns out. Çalhanoğlu, you can say, but, you know, Inter, he moved to Inter and was a success at Inter. Yeah, maybe, but in the end, Milan won the title without Çalhanoğlu. So there's going to be a strong pressure to keep that line. I think they have to get their sums right and not be afraid to take a hard line on this and say, all right, we're going to pay this much. But complicating the whole thing, as you know, and we've spoken about this before, Rafael Leao, for some crazy reason, personally, well, I'll get to the reason, personally owes something like, was it 16, 19 million euros?
Yeah, 20, let's say 20.
20 million to Sporting Lisbon. And this is because, this is, what, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, something like that? There was an issue at Sporting Lisbon where a bunch of fans came into the club's training ground, confronted the players, beat up the players, a whole bunch of players. And then the players used that as an opportunity to become free agents, right? Yeah. Which they're allowed to do.
A lot of them, Rupert Patricio, a lot of them did.
Many, Bastos.
Yeah.
And so then he ended up moving to Lille on a free. Now Sporting Lisbon says, well, we need compensation for this because he's worth X amount of money. It's fair enough, perhaps. But the question is, who pays that compensation? Yeah. Right now, it's on Leao personally. I'm pretty sure Leao does not have 20 million euros. Not yet, anyway. So you have to monitor that and accept that at some point down the road, Milan and Lille will probably have to compensate Sporting.
Yeah, well, you think so. Although Lille, the point that Lille are making right now is like, hang on, how come he's been allowed to be registered for us then? When we got him on a free, so that we send his registration that was accepted by FIFA, UEFA, the French league, anybody you want, and no one said, well, let's wait until we resolve the problem with Sporting.
Because there's due process, right?
Yeah.
So they don't want to penalize a player. So they say, all right, player, you can play. We've made this ruling, but obviously there's appeals. There is a due legal process that continues. The alternative would be like, Rafael Leao, you can't play for 3 years until we resolve this issue. True. Which wouldn't have been good for anybody.
Berlin also said we were allowed to get him on a free. Otherwise, so this is what they're going to build towards. But I think, and I think Lille knew exactly that there was a risk or a danger that this would come up, and I think rightly so. So, and same with Milan, when they bought him for 30, would have known that there was this hanging around that at some point
of course
come
they
back.
knew.
So
of course they knew.
If in the end Sporting get 10 million and Lille pay 5 and Milan pay 5, or maybe Lille, in a way, Lille should pay all, really, because it's got nothing to do with Milan. Milan paid 30 million for him to Lille. It's Lille who got him on a free, where really he was not a free transfer.
These things end up. We saw there was a similar case with Adrian Mutu years ago.
True.
These things end up resolving themselves in the players' favor. But of course, Sporting, I think, also have a point. Because I think definitely. Some agents really took advantage of that situation.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.